Welcome to another edition of the brand called You. Today I have a really accomplished lady, Shubhra Puri, with me. Shubhra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. I look forward to our conversation today.
Thank you. Shubhra is a well known journalist and she's the founder of Gurgaon First. So, Shubhra, tell me a little bit about your early career.
Sure. Ashutosh, I started my career as a journalist with the Economic Times as a business writer. And I used to work for Corporate Dossier, which was a supplement
I
with
remember
the
that.
Economic Times every Wednesday. It was a great time. You know, we were young and raring to go. And, initially you learn to write logically, you learn to write a balanced story
Sure.
with your editors. And but very soon I left Economic Times and started working for a business magazine called Powerline.
Okay.
And this was
This is
from
from the Hindu or?
no, this was from India Infrastructure
India
Publishing
Infrastructure, okay.
House, and they were planning to bring a lot of magazines in the infrastructure sector. They were planning to do a lot of reports on the infrastructure sector, and therefore it was very exciting. And I worked till 2012
Okay.
as editor content with this publishing house,
Okay.
and worked on a variety of infrastructure sectors like power, telecom, ports, and we brought out a lot of research reports. Soon after, of course, in 2012, I started Gurgaon First.
Oh, I see. Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about Gurgaon First. I mean, very unique initiative.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what you do.
Gurgaon First basically was created to give a positive platform to all the stakeholders of Gurgaon to voice their opinion and concerns about issues that mattered.
Okay.
And we look at four sectors. One is sustainability, the other is women's safety, and we also look at empowerment and good governance practices.
Okay.
And we've done about 45 workshops till date, and we've done 4 research reports
Okay.
on waste, on power, and on civil society organizations in Gurgaon. And the idea was to have credible workshops which give adequate voice to all the stakeholders of the city. We have authorities, RWA heads, NGOs, media, and just progressive citizens, or just about anybody who would want to be interested in that particular sector, come on board and participate in these workshops. And I think it has really helped Gurgaon to come up, for all the stakeholders to feel empowered and engaged in a vibrant city like Gurgaon.
Very interesting. So, we moved to Gurgaon 22 years ago and there was nothing here.
Yeah,
And today it is a thriving metropolis.
urban sprawl, yes, yeah.
So, Shubhra, I've often seen a lot of people, they talk. Everyone talks and
Right.
says, someone should do this, someone should do this. But no one takes the initiative. You've actually taken the initiative for the city that you live in.
Sure.
What motivated you to do this?
Very interesting question. I think 3 things largely. One was that, I thought that we've decided on making Gurugram our home, but I had no connect with the city. When I was in a corporate job, I was just using the city, but not giving to the city. So I felt that I need to create that bond with the city. So one was that thing. The second thing was that, in 2012, the city was going through a very interesting phase because the municipal councillors were being elected for the first time within the MCG, which meant that the third tier of governance was getting activated. And those were very interesting times. And the third, of course, was that the city was getting a lot of interesting stakeholders. Corporates were coming in. All the Fortune 500 companies were, having their headquarters in Gurugram. And there were a new age NGOs that were actually setting up shop in Gurgaon. And of course, there was media, there were schools, colleges, and everybody wanted to voice their, opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, I thought that let's create a credible platform where everybody can engage in discussions, especially with the authorities, because people do not find the authorities available to answer their questions very often. So these 3 things largely,
Very interesting.
encouraged me to
Very
create
interesting.
Gurgaon First.
And when you start an initiative like this, the first thing you need is a huge group of people who buy into your concept. And because you're working with a city, you need bureaucrats and politicians to buy.
Absolutely.
What were some of your challenges?
Well, I would say that I didn't face much challenges with the politicians and the bureaucrats, because when they see action on the ground, when they see that there are 200 RWA heads that are, getting together to discuss an issue which concerns them, they like to be there.
Okay.
And so I mean, I have really not faced any opposition or any challenges there. But of course, there are initial challenges when you pick up the phone and make your first call, that this is Gurgaon first and we are organizing a workshop, and my first workshop, and I organized it was Gurgaon as a smart city. Then you need to be convincing, you need to sound credible. And then as you meet various people, as you understand the city and how it operates, things become easier.
Okay. And you work primarily with volunteers.
I do, yes.
So how do you motivate volunteers, first to work and second to be accountable?
Ashutosh would be surprised to hear this, but the young people in India today are really wanting to get into social space.
I agree.
And people who have just started their careers, or even students, they feel so passionate about doing something more meaningful, adding more meaning to their lives. There are a lot of volunteers who just give me their time on the weekends,
I see.
because they say that, ma'am, we are making our weekends meaningful rather than going to the malls or to the movies. This is something that interests us, and they therefore take up one part of my job, which is handling the social media, for example, or just updating our website.
I see.
Yeah, so I think people are interested in good work, exciting work, and people want to do work that makes a difference at the ground level. So yeah.
So tell me, maybe just give me an example of 2 or 3 interesting initiatives that you've done in the last year or so.
In the last 2 years, pollution has been a very big issue.
Correct.
So one of our workshops, which was which came at the right time, was a workshop on air pollution, where we got the authorities together, we got progressive citizens together, also parents whose children were really suffering, and we asked the authorities to give us what a time frame of what would happen and when.
Sure.
And so that was very, very sort of satisfying. My own son attended that workshop because he was on leave because of pollution.
Okay.
And it was very interesting for even him to see what are the various people who are involved with pollution and what is happening to the city because of pollution. So that is one workshop that is very close to my heart.
Okay. And here you must be bringing in experts who give their views.
Experts, who people like companies like WRI, companies like CSE, who are talking about pollution day in and day out, and also experts who give good data on the table, which sounds very impeccable to everybody. So yeah, it is a kind of
and again. Excuse me for asking this, but I've often wondered that after a lot of these workshops, etc., the follow-up becomes weak.
Absolutely.
So have you got, say, citizens task forces saying that we will achieve this and we come back and tell you?
We are planning to do that, but so far what we do is we create white papers, which are like a 4-pager note on the workshop, also giving a backgrounder and the context of why we did this workshop. And it is given out to all the stakeholders. We do intend to create citizen task forces, but also for example, in the solar sector, what we've done is we are doing 6 monthly workshops and therefore taking updates on what's happening, which RW is going solar, and things like that. So that has been kind of regularized. But for the other sectors, we do need to create task forces. One of the challenges there is that the officials keep shifting.
I know.
And therefore, we do not have the
restart.
same official, looking at objectives and
That's true.
action plan.
That's true. I was speaking to somebody on solar, and since you mentioned solar, I said that in our city of Gurgaon, I think the roof surface is probably as much as the ground surface.
Absolutely.
And yet we don't have enough solar power in every single bungalow or high-rise building.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is holding it back?
Solar, of course, is one is that it is a huge upfront cost. Plus, there were technical glitches. People were facing a lot of delays in getting net metering operational. What really makes solar exciting is the net concept of net metering, where you can produce extra solar power and feed
sell
it
back.
into the
Yeah.
grid. Now, if that doesn't happen for a year or two, then the entire dynamics get
Changes.
lost.
I agree. I agree. So, Gurgaon first, you created a Swachhata anthem. I'll come back to my
Yeah,
other
yeah.
question. And you also said that you've done workshops on Swachhata.
Right,
Tell
right.
me about this anthem.
Yeah, so I have been very passionate about music. Music is something that I've carried through and through.
Yeah.
As a student, as a corporate professional, and I've been learning music on and off. And when I saw the Swachhata anthem of Gurgaon, what was being used in the city, I thought we could really create a better anthem. So it was a very interesting incident. I created the song and I, wrote the lyrics. I composed it, and I went up to the commissioner. I said, "Sir, I've created an anthem," and he only knew me as a social activist till now. And then, I just, did a
Played it
little bit of
out.
a beat on his table, and I, just
Sang it.
rattled out the entire song, and he loved it so much. He says, "Can you give me this song in 15 days?" I said, I'll work towards it and we'll do it. And because that was also the time that you could actually make in a little more points in the Swachh Sarvekshan, under the Swachh Sarvekshan, because you had a good Swachhata anthem. So he was very eager to get that going. And so we launched the song, and it's been, accepted very well with the Gurgaon, citizen. And it is being played on the vans that come and collect waste also. So after that, there was no looking back. I mean, it was something very exciting, because I was finally being able to combine my hobby to the work that I do. And these were two things that I was extremely passionate about: music and my work in the social space. And because I understood waste management very well, I knew what content need to go.
Correct.
So, for example, my first paragraph was about waste segregation. The other paragraph was about city cleanliness. So, what needs to go, in the right dose. So, lyrically, you're very confident that you're writing a very apt song. And of course, people have been very supportive. And now I've been able to do a jingle for Guru Jal, which is Gurugram's water project. Recently, I did a very interesting jingle for Women's Day,
Okay.
Women's Marathon.
Okay.
And I am doing more work in this area, and I'm feeling a lot of
So
satisfaction.
if you can send me the Swachhata
Anthem, yes, I will.
depending on how long it is, and if we are able to incorporate it, we'll try and put it into our
Sure,
video.
I can sing a few lines to
Please,
you right
why don't
now.
you sing it now?
Yeah, so it went like this. नगरों में बन जाए गुरु, स्वच्छता की हो धूम शुरू, गुरुग्राम तुझको प्रणाम, तेरा स्वच्छता में हो ऊंचा नाम, आओ मचा दे जुनून, मचा दे धूम, मचा दे गुरुग्राम में स्वच्छता की धूम, जगा दे जुनून, मचाते धूम, मचाते गुरुग्राम में स्वच्छता की धूम. So the idea was to make it
Very
very
nice.
peppy and fashionable,
Very
so that
nice.
people get enthused about waste management. It should be a burden to them. It should be a fashionable and the cool thing to do. So I, in fact, got a rap artist to, sing a few lines there, just to make it the cool
Very
thing
nice.
and the end thing.
Wow, that's a very, very unique way of marketing
Yeah.
the problems a city is facing.
And whenever we do a waste workshop and we sing the anthem, we suddenly have a lot of readiness, receptiveness in the audience. And music is something that moves everybody. So, so giving a good message through a song is wonderful.
Fantastic. So let's move on. I was going to ask you a question on: do you see the ability to replicate Gurgaon first
Yeah.
in every other city of India.
I would love to see that. In fact, if you ask me, there is a Nagpur first. There is a Mumbai first. I'm sure you're aware
I've
of.
heard of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
So some ex-IAS officers created Mumbai first for giving advice to government in the planning stage. Nagpur first was just a one event platform where all the NRIs of Nagpur have they come once in a year to Nagpur and see how they could invest in Nagpur. So they are not exactly what we are doing, but in terms of just the name, we have similarity with them. But of course, creating a platform where all stakeholders could voice
come
their
together,
concerns,
yeah.
meet on a regular basis, would be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to. In fact, there was some queries initially, but people get very excited about it, but then they don't
Follow
through.
through.
Yeah,
Right.
follow through, and therefore it just falls off there. But at least I'm excited that conversations are happening, and people do ask me, how did you start, and how do you, what is the model, and
Yeah.
so
Wonderful.
which is interesting. Yeah.
Wonderful. So one more question for you for Gurgaon first before I move to the next segment. You did speak about young people, and this is the age of the millennials. You did say that they give you weekends.
Mm-hmm.
How are millennials changing the way we live in Gurgaon?
Well, if you ask me, the millennials are actually creating a lot of platforms for other citizens to engage in. It just, if you think about Gurgaon, we have the Save Aravali's group, we have the Gurgaon Water Forum.
Correct.
Group, which are all initiatives, right? And we have really a lot of NGOs that are doing fantastic work, like
Correct.
I Am Gurgaon. There's
Yeah.
also Gurgaon Ki Awaaz, which is doing a lot of work for migrant population. So I think they are the change agents now, and a lot of these initiatives, I must say, are being driven by women. So
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
it is an exciting place to be in, actually.
I agree. So Shubhra, moving on, you're a member of the ICC committee under prevention of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this and
Sure.
what is happening about the new act, prevention of POCSO.
POSH, yeah, Prevention of Sexual Harassment.
Sexual harassment.
Yeah, but the act is called Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplaces,
Okay.
SHW.
And the other one is for children.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's So I work in the sexual harassment for
Okay.
women,
Yeah.
and this act had actually come out in December 2013,
Okay.
and it mandates companies and workplaces to have an ICC committee to look into such cases. And one of the tenets of this act is that you need to have an external member on board in the 5-member committee.
Okay.
Right? It could also be a 7-member committee, but you need to have an external member presence. And I work as an external member for 2 organizations currently.
Okay.
And you can be an external member only for a period of 3 years, and then they need to replace
Sure.
it. So I'm currently working as a external member in these 2 organizations, where I advise on how to train the other committee members on the legal issues, and also how to take complaints and how to see whether this is a sexual harassment case or not. And therefore, if there is a case, then just go through the proceedings as per the act.
And are more women now coming out and talking about the
Certainly.
challenges they face?
Certainly, yes.
Because there is a more secure environment for them to do so? Or-
Absolutely. I think there are more complaints, and there are a few malicious complaints also
Correct.
because of that. But
Yeah.
we can't, underestimate the spirit of the act.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the spirit of the act is that the corporates are more diverse.
Yeah.
And women feel secure and recognized. Their talents are
Correct.
recognized
Correct.
adequately
Correct.
in their work environments. So I think the spirit of the act is great, and we would see more and more women working more fearlessly and
Wonderful.
in organizations, yeah, because
Wonderful.
of the act.
We need to get to a place where a woman is absolutely secure,
Absolutely.
not just at the workplace, but on on the streets as well.
Absolutely, yes,
No?
both at public places and workplaces.
Correct. Wonderful.
Certainly.
So, one question to you on gender balance.
Mm-hmm.
You have worked as a journalist, and only in the last few years that do have corporates and employers and governments in India
Mm-hmm.
started to recognize the need for ensuring a proper gender balance.
Absolutely.
Yet there is still a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
What are your views on how we can correct the gap?
Yeah. See, now, of course, corporates are beginning to recognize that gender diversity not only makes workplaces happier and compassionate places to work, but it also promotes a return on investment.
Correct.
So companies which have a balanced, gender ratio also have higher returns of investment. So there is a perfect business case for gender diversity. And but there are gaps. There are gaps because of compulsions on a woman, which are internal compulsions
Correct.
sometimes, and sometimes there are external compulsions where with internal compulsions is that she sometimes feels guilty of leaving her children behind, and therefore says that and she self limits herself that I cannot grow to this level, but because I need to look after my family, this is all right for me. So these are self-limiting factors, right? The other factors are external factors. When she's on a maternity break, for example, is the company willing to accept her back
With
with
seniority.
some
Correct.
flexibility and at the same level, etc. So those are, and there are stereotypes and glass ceilings, etc. So
Correct.
there are both these factors, and we are bridging this gap very, very rapidly now.
Wonderful. So, Shubhra, I have time for a few questions for you personally now.
Sure.
My first question is that over the years, as a journalist and now as founder of Gurgaon First, have you had any people who've had a strong influence on your life?
Mm-hmm.
And if yes, what have you learned from them?
Mm-hmm. Right. I think, when I had actually embarked on a corporate career, I thought I would never be in a social space. But but my mother was always a social worker. She's an MSW. And I think at the back of my mind, I was sensitized to social issues. So I think my mother initially, and then a few teachers, one professor that I was very fond of in my MBA, who wanted me to join an ad agency, and because he thought that I write well, and he in fact offered me a job with his he was working with R.K. Swami then, and him and then a few of my bosses. So not one person, but over a period of time, I think I have been inspired and influenced by several people who, and of late, a lot of like-minded friends who have social initiatives, and where you often want to bounce off your ideas, your opinions with them and see what they say, and and also in terms of knowing what is the right thing to do. So a lot of people who are in social space, inspire me on an everyday basis.
Very interesting. And what would be three words that define Shubhra?
Well, I think I always had that streak of idealism in me. So idealistic, very strong sense of what is right and wrong,
Correct.
and always wanting to do the right thing,
Correct.
even if it was the hard thing to do. That would be one. The second would be optimistic. I've always believed in creating, my platform as a positive platform. So when people start complaining, and whenever they see authorities there, and they say, "Ye nahi hua, wo nahi hua," so let's bygones be bygones. Let's create a positive atmosphere where we have these conversations. So positive and optimistic.
Okay.
And perhaps I'm a good listener, and I am able to understand the perspectives of different people, which also helped me in my journalistic career. So these three things.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So my last question to you, and this is a question of failure. I've often said that Indian parents don't teach their children that it's okay to fail. Every child is, you got to come first, you got to enter the queue, etc., etc.
Right.
Yet we fail all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, what have been some of your learnings
Mm-hmm.
from your mistakes or your failures?
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe, Ashutosh, that there is nothing called failure, especially in social space.
Correct.
Either you are more successful or, less successful, or you learn some lessons and, change your strategy and, so because there are no hard-hitting goals
Correct.
or, objectives that you would want to achieve. This is a long road. This is a long road. And, but, of course, there have been initiatives where I was very, very excited about, and for example, one of these initiatives was the Haryana Fresh initiative, where the government wanted to bring farmers and consumers in direct contact, and they were planning to set up Haryana Fresh shops in 40 RWAs of Gurgaon. And initially this whole thing excited me a lot, and I was part of the entire presentation and the just getting everybody together and getting this going. But this thing never took off. It was put as an experiment in 2 RWAs. It didn't succeed so much. But I would have loved to see the Haryana Fresh movement take off. It was
Correct.
something very interesting, very inspiring also. And really we needed, farmers to get the right pricing
Yeah.
for their produce, and also citizens to get fresh vegetables.
Correct.
Yeah, so this would have been a great
Yeah.
initiative. It hasn't taken off, but I'm sure
Someday it will.
yes, someday it will. Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Shubhra, thank you very much. It's
My
been such a
pleasure.
pleasure speaking to you.
Ashutosh, yeah, really it
And
was.
thank you for the incredible work you're doing for the city that I live in.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Lovely being here.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for The Brand Called You. Thank you, and see you next week.